So, there's this dude named Rob Crab who's a total brainiac. But, all the chicks in his high school ignore him cause he's a nerd. Poor guy's never even had a girlfriend or a one-night stand, so he's always got a boner. One morning, he's still in bed when he has an orgasm in his pants. And, wouldn't you know it, his mom walks in on him. She sees his wet pants and tells him to toss the sheets in the wash. Talk about awkward. Anyway, Rob's got a big day ahead of him cause he's got an interview at Georgetown University. His dad went there too, so he's gotta get in. Before school, he goes to his buddy Stanley's house. Stanley's also a nerd, but he's got some magic tricks up his sleeve and landed himself a hot girlfriend. Lucky bastard. At school, Rob meets up with his childhood friend Gabrielle and her super nerdy friend Arthur. Gabrielle's totally into Rob and invites him over to her place later to drink beer and watch the spelling bee. But, Rob's got his eyes on his crush Angela. Suddenly, some frat boys show up and start messing with Rob, squirting him with a water gun and making him wet his pants. But, it's not just water, turns out he got too excited looking at Angela and had a little accident. And, wouldn't you know it, he's got an interview in an hour. Gabrielle suggests he grab some pants from the lost and found, but Rob decides to just wear his gym shorts. Good luck, dude. So, Rob and Stanley were getting ready for Rob's interview in the library when Angela pops up out of nowhere and asks Rob to help her with her test. She even invites him over to her place later that night. Rob is totally caught off guard by the invite, but he's a good friend and tells her he can't because he already has plans with Gabrielle. Later in class, Stanley gives Rob a hard time for turning down Angela's once-in-a-lifetime offer. He thinks Angela is totally into Rob and tells him to ditch Gabrielle and tutor Angela instead. Gabrielle ends up giving Rob a pep talk before his interview with Jack Roth. When Rob meets Roth, he apologizes for his funny shorts and Roth is totally cool with it. During the interview, Roth asks Rob why he wants to study at Georgetown University. Instead of talking about the school, Rob tells him that his parents met there. This makes Roth emotional because he met his late wife at Georgetown too. The interview goes downhill from there. After the terrible interview, Rob tells Stanley that he's a total failure. Stanley tells him to use Angela to lighten up his mood. This time, Rob takes his advice and cancels his plans with Gabrielle. He lies and says he's not feeling well because of the disastrous interview. So, Rob was on his way to Angela's crib when he had a little accident. But he didn't let that stop him from getting to her. When he finally made it, she took him to her bedroom and sat him down on her bed. Then she started touching his thighs and he got all tingly inside. But he got so excited that he accidentally spilled wine on her top. Angela quickly took off her shirt and changed right in front of him, which totally blew his mind. She even told him how much she wanted to study with him. Then she leaned in for a kiss and put her hand on his pants. Rob was so turned on that he couldn't control himself and ended up climaxing in his pants. The next thing he knew, he woke up in his bed with wet underwear. His mom walked in and told him to change his sheets. He was so confused and didn't know if it was real or just a dream. But he got ready for school anyway and his dad gave him a pep talk for his interview. When he got to school, he went through the same stuff he saw in his dreams. The frat boys messed up his pants again and he had to change into gym shorts. Then he told Stanley about his dream where Angela wanted to hook up with him. And wouldn't you know it, Angela showed up and asked him to tutor her. This time, he said yes without hesitation. During the interview, Roth started crying again and Rob just walked out instead of trying to comfort him. After that, he went to the school clinic to find a cure for his premature climax. But he left right away when he saw the nurse holding a sick student against their will. On his way to Angela's, he realized he forgot to cancel plans with Gabrielle. But he didn't let that stop him and he ended up having another accident. Later, he kissed Angela and finished too soon again. So, Rob wakes up in his bedroom and everything that happened yesterday starts all over again. He's hella confused and not sure if it's just a dream or what. Then we see Stanley and his girl Lisa in bed, but Lisa's being shady and not wanting to be seen with Stanley in public. Before they can talk it out, Rob busts in and gets all hot and bothered by Lisa in her lingerie, resetting the day again. Rob heads to school and tries to talk to Gabrielle about his weird situation, but those frat boys show up and start messing with him again. This time, Rob loses his cool and breaks their toy, which makes them super mad and they chase him all over the school. Rob locks himself in a room, but they're banging on the door and he knows he's running out of time. So, he uses his superpower and resets the day again. When his mom walks in on him, Rob's actually happy because he managed to avoid those bullies. His dad starts lecturing him about going to Georgetown, but Rob interrupts him and says he wants to do things differently. So, at school, Stanley won't shut up about hooking up with girls, but Rob's over it. He starts preaching about how there's more to life than just getting laid. Rob's feeling carefree and drives a huge golf cart through the halls like a boss. Later, he chills with Gabrielle and they talk about their friendship. Turns out, Rob saved her from bullies way back in elementary school and they've been tight ever since. Rob gets all emotional and promises they'll always keep their tradition of watching the spelling bee alive. Then he goes to an interview and helps Roth deal with his wife's death. But then he runs into his old bully Sally and decides to use his power to get revenge. He punches her in front of everyone and gets called to the principal's office. Sally calls the cops and Rob freaks out and runs away. He tells Stanley everything, but Stanley's clueless. Still, he helps Rob out and takes him to the girls' locker room. But Rob can't get in the mood and leaves feeling bummed. He decides to turn himself in, but Sally kicks him in the balls and he gets turned on and finishes. The next day, Rob's in a terrible mood and cancels his plans with Gabrielle for the spelling bee. Stanley tries to cheer him up for his interview and Rob gives him a hug. Then Angela invites him over and he's down to go. So, Rob goes to his interview, but Gabrielle isn't there this time. He's feeling pretty down during the whole thing, and Roth picks up on it. But then Rob spills the beans to Gabrielle about everything that's been going on. She's skeptical at first, but then she tells him about her secret fantasy involving Abraham Lincoln, which is pretty wild, if you ask me. She tells Rob to use that secret to prove that he's telling the truth when he resets the day again. They go to Arthur's house to get some help, but his grandma is superstitious and starts calling Rob a jadugar. It's a whole thing, but eventually Rob figures out that it means cursed. He demands to know how to break the curse, but Arthur doesn't know. So, Rob explains everything to Gabrielle and Stan, and finally convinces them that he's not lying. They think maybe he got cursed because he did something wrong, so Rob starts thinking about what that could be. So, basically, this dude thinks he didn't do it right with Angela, so he goes to her class and offers to tutor her. But his girl Gabrielle is not happy about it. Then he teaches his friend how to please a woman and sends him to Angela's house. It works and they start making out, but Angela says he has to do her homework first. That's when he realizes she's just using him and doesn't really love him. He also realizes he's supposed to be with Gabrielle. But then his dad shows up and takes him to meet some dude named Roth. They talk about why he should go to Georgetown, but Rob realizes he doesn't want the same things as his dad. Then he sees Gabrielle on TV and finally realizes he really likes her. But he still didn't go to her that night, so the day keeps repeating itself. So, Rob comes back to the table and tells his dad that he's into Gabrielle and doesn't want to go to Georgetown. Jim's a little bummed, but he's cool with it and supports his son's choice. Then, Jim and Roth take Rob to Gabrielle's crib and help him sneak in through her window. Turns out, the car that kept crashing into Rob was actually Roth's. When Rob gets to Gabrielle's room, he spills the beans about everything and tells her he didn't hook up with Angela. But, Gabrielle's still pissed and tells him to bounce. Rob's not having it, so Gabrielle takes off her top to get him going and reset the day. But, her dad hears the commotion and rushes in. Rob tells him he's not trying to take advantage of Gabrielle, he just loves her and it took him a minute to figure it out. Gabrielle doesn't say anything, so Rob dips out the window. But, as soon as her dad leaves, Gabrielle stops him and they watch the spelling bee together. Then, they hook up and the time loop is broken. Turns out, they were meant to be together and the universe kept repeating itself until they found each other.